Greetings, welcome back to Old Ways Rising Farm YouTube channel for what's just going to be a little bit of a talk video, okay? Some thoughts I've been having lately in light of current events, the storm disasters that have happened in the south with the hurricanes coming up through this year, with people worried about geopolitical unrest, with the fact that we were just out of power for a day with a big old snowstorm here in the Northeast. And there's a lot of folks that are starting to get worried about things and think about tools and skills in a different way and rebuilding a relationship with tools and skills. Okay? But starting in that process can be completely overwhelming. If you don't have anything but power tools, where do you start? If you don't have any dirt, time, or wood skills, where do you start? Right? I did an earlier video thinking about a skills acquisition process, and I'll make sure that a link to the playlist with all of these talk videos pops in the end screen so you can find that. But I want to talk more here about the tools, hierarchy of tools and supplies. What should you think about first? What should you get first? What is a strategy for starting to go from something to nothing? Okay. Once you have something and you have things in place and you're starting to learn how to use those tools and you have a relationship with those tools, you will organically go from what you have, identifying a need, and then going on and filling that need. And that's a very organic process. What I want to talk about is first steps. Or alternatively, if you've taken some first steps, you weren't happy with where you started, and you're kind of starting over, right? And there needs to be some sort of organizing principle, organizing heuristic. So I'm holding a hatchet that I just made a handle for, and I did this in video, and that'll be next week's video. So you'll see me make this hatchet handle and hang this beautiful little Norland hedge. And this is very high on my hierarchy of tools. Some hatchet, right? Why is it? Well, for a heuristic, start with what are the basic things that you need. And I would encourage you to think about a kit of things in your car that you would have with you at all times that could get you out of a trouble situation. A snowed in, the highway closed, and you're stuck in between exits sort of situation, right? The thing that could realistically happen. This isn't a video about preparing to survive nuclear war, right? That's a completely different topic.
There's also a lot of those on
There's
YouTube.
a lot of channels devoted to that. I'm thinking about a more practical, how to be comfortable in camping or how to get along well if you have a little local disaster. Okay, and this has happened, right? Florida had a local disaster this year. North Carolina had a local disaster this year. A lot of Pennsylvania and New York has been out of power for 2 days now with the snow that you see around me. The area where I'm making this video from is back on, but we have friends who are still out, right? So these sort of local miniature disasters that can happen to anybody, anywhere, any year, right? Whether it's fire in the west or hurricanes in the south or snow in the north. You can have a local disaster, and having yourself ready to manage that fairly smoothly and conveniently is a good place to start and think through your hierarchy of basic tools. Because the basic tools you'll need for that and the basic tools you'll need to start, like bushcraft woodworking, turn out to be the same tools, okay? So get these things and start working with these things, and as you tinker with them, you'll discover what you like, what you don't like, and then you can evolve organically, okay? So the first thing to think about is what will be the most uncomfortable / potentially dangerous, like life-threatening, first. And exposure to the elements is number one, okay? You don't need food. You really don't need food. You can go days and days and days without food. You can go weeks without food and you're fine. You're grumpy, but you're fine. Okay? So food is not even on the list. Water starts to become acute after 4 days, 3 to 4 days, depending on temperature and activity level. Okay? I'm not even thinking about water first. I'm thinking about shelter first. Shelter and heat, especially if you can have this white stuff all over the ground. Heat becomes very important. So that's putting up a shelter and firewood processing for your two basics. What I carry in my car in winter at all times, because, again, we're not talking about stuff hitting the fan worldwide. Stuff can just hit my car. And that stuff can be this white stuff. You know? So, what I always have in my car in winter, I always have 2 tarps and 2 blankets. Because if you have 2 tarps and 2 blankets and a wad of some sort of rope or cordage, or often with me it's just a hunk of baler twine that I grab out of the barn when I start to see bad weather coming, I'll just wad up a hunk of baler twine, chuck it in the car. Right? It doesn't have to be fancy. It can be simple. Right? But with those 2 tarps, I can rig up those 2 tarps and the twine. I can rig up a nice lean-to. I can rig up a nice shelter, and I've slept in just tarps many times. And be, protected from the wind, protected from the elements. If you can keep the wind off you, and you have something dry to lay on, and you have something to wrap yourself up in, you're going to be okay. Right? So, couple tarps, couple blankets is the bare minimum. I always have that in my car in winter. Next, you want to be able to warm up and dry off your clothes, and that means some fire. So first, bag of kindling. You should always have a bag of kindling in the car. I was just chatting with Renee last night. We need to check. We cleaned out our car, and I forget if I took the bag of kindling out or not. Right? That can be fat wood. That can be some dried twigs from one of these lovely pine trees. That can be birch bark. That could be a Ziploc baggie full of pine needles, like if you're in the south, around the longleaf pine area. Get a baggie of those longleaf pine needles. Really good fire starter.
Could even be dryer lint.
Could be, but not what I'd recommend.
Fair enough.
Because it's plastic.
Ah, yeah. Okay.
And it will go up really, really quick, but it doesn't stay burning long enough. A little pinch of dryer lint can help you ignite your birch bark, but you can ignite your birch bark directly.
Fair enough.
You know, so it doesn't burn long enough to start to really build a sustaining fire. And you want a couple of sizes of material from something that you could start with your lighter solution, and then something small, smaller than a pencil to a pencil, and then stuff the size of your thumb. So you want a couple different sizes, and then stuff the size of your thumb. That will burn long enough to get a real fire going. So you want at least those 3 sizes. You should never really try to start something on fire with something that's less than about 1/3 of its diameter. Okay? So your birch bark can start your pencil diameter dry pine twigs. Your pencil diameter dry pine twigs can start your thumb-sized dry pine twigs. And then your thumb-sized dry pine twigs can start whatever you're going to forage while you're stuck in the snowbank. But that's going to be wet. Anything, if we're assuming that something bad is happening, we're assuming the weather is not dry. Okay? Unless you're in the desert in the summer and the disaster is a fire, in which case fire is not your problem. Right? So, realistically, if you're stuck in a snowbank, you're not going to be able to go forage dry wood. So you need a little bit of that with you. And then a way to ignite it. That should be whatever you're comfortable using. Okay? I always keep a ferro rod in the glove box. You could have a lighter. If you're comfortable starting birch bark with a lighter, then you should take a lighter. A box of matches, whatever. Whatever you are comfortable with, that is what you should take right now. Okay? For this initial kit, don't take a bow drill set if you've never used it before. It's just a waste of space. You'd be better off using that space for an extra lighter and extra kindling. Okay? So don't take something you're not comfortable with. Then you get to water. Once you have the ability to make a fire, the ability to heat some water and consume a warm drink, even if it's just hot water, to warm up your core is a very good thing. So the next thing we always carry in the car is a stainless steel canteen. and that could stainless steel mess kit along with it. Those things, you can scoop snow, you can melt it, you can scoop water out of a creek and boil it and have a warm drink, even if it's not flavored. We're not talking about a 4-star hotel here. We're talking about being relatively comfortable and being okay. Okay? That gets you your water. Now, to process your firewood, your larger stuff, this is what you want. There is so much blabber out there on the internet about survival knives, and it's just blabber. I hate the whole concept. I know I'm going to get some big old thumbs downs for this, but I don't care. I hate the entire concept of a survival knife. This is a survival knife. This is designed to baton, this is designed to split, this is designed to chop, and if you're in a tough spot, you're not going to really want to chop anything and get wood thicker than about your wrist. And this can do that. So this can do everything that you want. If you want to be able to process firewood a little faster and you want an extra tool, get a good folding saw. Okay? This is a survival knife. These big old short swords that people walk around with, and oh my gosh, you see them around here in the country during deer season. You get all these people that think that a buck knife needs to be that long. No! This is why a common deer hunting injury is stab self in ankle while trying to clean a deer. Because you're trying to gut a deer with a short sword. No! Right?
Well, and also
This is just stupid.
you're gonna mess up the skin.
You're going to mess up the skin. You're not going to be able to tan it. And then if you want a knife to do fine work, you want something this size. If you want to add a knife to your kit, you don't need to. A properly designed hatchet can do anything a knife can do. This one tool can really do everything a knife can do and a whole lot more. This is a survival knife.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to add a knife, a survival knife that's a knife, you want a Sloyd knife. Okay? Your most versatile knife is just long enough. I would get one a little bit longer than this, where you can just touch the tip while holding it, pinch grip at the base of the blade, and touch the tip. Because that's your control. Right? So there's a few things I could do with a knife that's 1 inch longer than this. This is a 2.5 inch knife. 3.5 inches is what I would consider my most versatile knife. Okay? 4 is okay, just like 2.5 is okay. 5 is too stinking long, leave it home. Okay? And this is actually difficult to get a knife that's actually what I consider the right size. So if you hold this in a pinch grip, you should just be able to touch the tip or just shy of the tip. Because when you're skinning, having your finger right on the tip tells you where the blade is, and you won't cut the skin. Okay? Having an extra inch, this is perfect for carving. Okay, this is what I like for a carving size blade. Having an extra inch over this does have some advantages in the field. But you want a small knife, and I feel I would be absolutely comfortable taking this and not having that extra inch, right? But if I'm building a kit, I will get a 3.5 inch blade, or make a 3.5 inch blade for the kit if I'm building a kit. Also, good option, ulu knife, okay? Because unless you're planning to carve wood with detail, you don't need a pointy blade, okay? You need enough of a corner on the ulu knife that you can initiate a cut in the belly when you're processing game. But you can do that with an ulu knife. You don't need a real stabby knife. Okay, a small like Kephart knife is what I consider pretty much ideal for a field knife. Okay, where hunting is part of the intended purpose. You're not going to have a fun time butchering a squirrel with an ulu knife. Right? You'll have a perfectly happy time butchering a deer with an ulu knife. You're not going to have a fun time butchering a squirrel with an ulu knife. And that's where you're like what they call a trout and bird knife, or a small camp knife, right? Kephart knife. Cutting up a squirrel or skinning a muskrat, that's where that comes in handy. Okay? And that's where, like, what I have in my pocket, the one I just showed you, is perfectly good for those tasks. And those are really the only tasks that I wouldn't want to do with this, or with an ulu. So that would be your starter kit. And then you play with it, and you work with it, and you go camping with it. And then you see, oh, well, this did well here, but it fell short in this other capacity. Then you get a tool for that.
Mm-hmm.
Start small. Start get a couple of very good quality tools and work your way out. Okay? For a basic camp knife, the problem with the Kephart knife and the that sort of bushcraft knife, they're all too stinking big in terms of the commercial knives. So for getting like that 3.5 to 4 inch knife, you can go and you can get Sloyd knives in that category. Very inexpensive. A lot of them have no finish on the handle. Just slap some linseed oil on, let it dry, you're good to go. Okay. Start there with that. You can get, if you want to add a saw into your hatchet kit, you can just go get a pruning saw. Okay. The problem I have with all of the pruning saws and folding saws that are available is they can't be resharpened. And I like tools that I can resharpen. So we'll chat about saws more in the future of the channel. But, you know, we're talking about a car kit for a world where the grid is still up. We're not talking about prepping for after World War III here. So replacement blades are fine in this context, right? They're not good. If you're prepping for World War III, replacement blades are a terrible idea. You want something you can sharpen. But in the current world, where we're talking about a convenient kit for camping, we're not talking about stuff hitting the fan worldwide. We're talking about stuff hitting you for a week. And in that context, a replaceable blade is totally adequate. So work with those things, play with those things. And I was scrolling, part of what brought this thought to my mind, I was scrolling, you know, some Facebook forums and stuff last night, and somebody posted, I live in the city, where can I go to practice this stuff? The answer is your living room. Right? You can go and you can get a little light workbench, get a couple of tools, and just start working with wood. Start carving things. Start doing some Sloyd work. Start tinkering. There's all sorts of ideas on this channel and a whole bunch of other channels. Just start playing with your tools and getting comfortable with them. And you can do that in a studio apartment. You can go to the hardware store, you can buy some pine, you can start whittling. You can go and you can get one of those little chintzy overpriced little bundles of firewood if you want to work with some hardwood, and start carving and whittling. Just do what you have available. Don't think that it has to be some perfect idealized survival camp in order to start practicing with your tools. Do it in your living room, even if you're watching this from the suburbs. Okay?
Just get a good vacuum.
Get a good vacuum. There you go. Okay, hun, but if you're in the suburbs, you probably have a good vacuum. Not worried about that one. But it's true, it's true. Throw a tarp. There's a good use for your tarp. Throw it down underneath to catch your whittling scraps. So, there's your tarp camping ground cloth practice if you're learning tools and you're in the burbs. So, you know, but get good tools. Get good tools that are going to last you a lifetime. And you know, start playing with them. So, we have a number of tool videos on the channel. I'm building more. We're completely unsponsored, so everything that I tell you about these tools is honest opinion, uninfluenced by money. But it does take resources to, you know, buy in and work with all these sorts of things so that I can comment to you on them. So we have a Patreon if you're so inclined. You can wander over there. And there's a lot of research that I have done on traditional life ways and skills that is in the digital store of the Patreon page. But everything in the digital store of the Patreon page is free to patrons at all levels. I'm not really trying to sell it. It's just the only way I could figure out how to host it. So, you know, if you want to come on to Patreon and support what we're doing, you can do that at any level you like. Everybody gets the same access to the resources. So, trying to be helpful and support the channel a little bit at the same time without having such an inordinate paywall that I'm excluding people, right? The lowest level is $1 a month, and you get everything. So, if you want to support for more, I am very grateful that I have patrons that are supporting for more. I am very grateful to you. But if all you can do is $1 a month, please come and get the stuff, right? Please come and get the stuff. So I hope this gives you some ideas, simplifying things down a little bit, get you started thinking about it. We'll continue to do more tool videos, talk videos, project videos, gardening videos, all of the things here at Old Ways Rising Farm, and I hope that you'll join us for those.